there are a few risks when it comes to like crypto jobs. There are a few risks, but I don't know if you want to get into that now.
What I really love about the space as well is that, once again, this is $1 trillion market and it is still being built. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people very much underestimate that.
Like, I've met guys who work with NFT projects and they work more so on the marketing side, but they couldn't tell you nothing about the tech, right?
Welcome back to this episode of the CryptoNoobz Podcast, where we talk about cryptocurrency and the world around it. I'm your host, NelsonRecardo.x, and I'm joined with my co-host,
Lamont, aka Crypto Lambo.
And today, we're going to be talking about building in Web3 and how to find jobs in Web3 and cryptocurrency. The first question I have for you, Lamont, is, right, what does building in Web3 and crypto even mean? Like, how would you describe that?
Well, the way I would describe it is really like coming together and forming something new that could definitely push the space. So that means like either creating a new app or a new software that either companies or individuals can buy. And that involves a lot of experience from more so the developer side of things. So if you see any problem, which you see there's no clear solution to it, so you will see firms come together and they will actually start to work together on solving those problems. So that's what I think of building. I think more so along that lines, or like creating new crypto projects or anything that really could help change the crypto space in a more of an infrastructural way. That's the way how I kind of see it. I'm not saying that's the concrete definition, but that's what I think here about building. That's more so where my thought process goes. But what about you? What do you consider it?
So I think when I hear building in crypto, I definitely agree with you that building in crypto means that, you're definitely adding to the space. You're either creating an app that does something with crypto transactions, or maybe you're a crypto content creator, or, maybe you do marketing in crypto. Maybe you are doing compliance. It's a lot of different ways that we could say building in crypto. But overall, I would say that it just means that you're adding value to the space and that you're actually in the space, that you're not just an observer, but you're actually, an executor, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So what ways have you seen like people building that you think would really contribute to the space? Like, what ways do you see people building that you really like?
Well, I guess you could say I like the way we're building because, like you say, just as simple as like content creation, building awareness of the space and building awareness of the different tools and opportunities that lie in the crypto field. That's something what we have been doing and we are continuing to do, and that's something that I really kind of pay attention to when I see people do it, because they take it from a more, I don't want to say non-traditional route, because yeah, it is kind of like a non-traditional route. And when people think of, and I guess that's what my thought process is, when people think of building, they think a lot along of the technical side of things. So it is really interesting when people are able to put together other skill sets that are actually able to move the space forward. So that's those are things that I'm really interested in. And also, like, whenever I see new apps that come out with either no one has thought about, or when I see people take something from the traditional finance space or something and they apply it to the crypto space and they're able to execute it, to me, I always find that interesting, because that it takes a level of innovativeness as well as courage, because to try something that no one's ever did before, like they say, sometimes when you succeed, you look like a genius, but when you fail, you look like a fool. So I actually kind of admire people who are able to do things like that. I actually like monitoring projects that are able to do things like that.
I want to really touch on that point that you made, saying, some people believe that, this thing has to be like really technical, right? Some of the biggest companies and names inside crypto, they're not always associated with creating the tech. That's one of the things that I think is really cool about building inside of crypto. As I said, a lot of marketers are inside here, a lot of content creators, influencers, and things like that. And then the thing is, even the space of, say, Web3 and crypto doesn't even have to directly be about crypto. That's one of the things that I personally like about it, because we actually have AI inside here. We have AR and VR. You see, like, now quantum computing and vibe coding and all that good stuff. And speaking about vibe coding, even if you aren't so technical, now you could actually go and create like your minimal viable product or your MVP. You could actually go and create the first version of a product if you don't know how to code. With a lot of these different apps out with AI, describe it, the AI will build it, and then you just push it out to the market, and then you start to look for like different founders. And one of the things I really love about the space as well is that, once again, this is $1 trillion market and it is still being built. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people very much underestimate that.
That's a good question. It really kind of depends on your role. Like, one of the things with, I guess, finding any job is you got to identify your skills. You have some people who are good at people. They're not necessarily like into the whole, like I've met guys who work with NFT projects and they work more so on the marketing side, but they couldn't tell you nothing about the tech, right? They were doing pretty well for themselves, but they couldn't tell you nothing about the technology. Then you have guys who work on the technology, the back end, and they don't really like, they're not really interested in meeting a lot of people. They're doing well as well. So it's kind of like you have to kind of understand your strength and your weakness. So I don't want to say it's either or, but I would say probably I would guess people more in the tech space, they will do well from the development aspect. Then people who probably from the more finance or business related sector, they would do more so from the investment, probably trading, securities, crypto analyst aspect. That would be my assumption. I don't have no stats to back this up, but that would be kind of my assumption for it. So like people who work more so front-facing jobs, like where they meet with clients and investors, they'll probably do better in front-facing positions in the crypto space. It's just that they're just kind of like translating their skills. Because once you can understand stocks and all that, you kind of understand crypto. And once you can understand the tech side of crypto would be much easier for you to understand.
Yeah, I agree. I think honestly, once you understand who you are as a person and what you like, for example, I tell people that I'm not a trader. I've personally learned trading, right? I've learned some level of trading and what's not, still need a lot more to learn. But I realized that I would much rather create content and, talk with other people. That's just me for an example. What I've noticed inside the crypto space is that whatever skills that you have, first and foremost, crypto is usually very open to anyone at any level with any skill set. Usually that's what I found. I found that they are very open. All they're looking for is for you to actually prove your skills, prove your work. So whatever, if you came from the banking sector and you want to understand how these currencies work, there's that. Once again, if you were a marketer, I actually came from the marketing sector. I know how to market. You could just go into looking for marketing in a particular job. Community, community manager. We actually had someone from our community give a story about how a friend of theirs became a community manager for a crypto project. And they were making some really good bank and their only job was to get inside of the group and start conversations.
Yeah.
That was to keep the conversation going, to keep people engaged. That was their entire role. And I think that as you get into the crypto space, you just have to be honest with yourself. I don't think that you should do everything. I think that you just need to find your niche, find what is it that you are personally good at. And even something that I would have learned is track your energy. What I mean by that is track what gets you excited, Pay very close attention to the things that are getting you excited versus the things that you're not really as excited to do. Of course, there's going to be like, if you don't know anything about crypto, there's going to be some time to actually go and learn some things, right? But find out what is it that you really like to do. If you like to talk to people, go for roles where you're talking to someone. If you don't like to talk to people, go for roles that you don't have to talk to someone, But once again, it's just about doing what works.
Yeah. Because like even like certain roles where I was approached with, or like just in general, when you look at certain jobs, when you look at the pay, right? Okay, the pay is one thing and that's important, but some jobs I just have no interest in doing. Let's look at it from we'll go back to crypto with the tech space. I'm not as interested in the technology aspect of it. I'm more so interested in the business, corporate restructuring, stuff like that. That's more so what I'm interested in. I'm not as interested in the back office tech aspect or the development side of things as much. I think it's important to know some baseline of it, but that isn't really something I'm really going to stop and research on as much. So I just stick to okay, how's the crypto market related to policies and government, stuff like that. That's stuff that I'm interested in. So I just focus on that. I just focus on, like you say, just focus on wherever your strengths lie or wherever your interests lie. Because you're going to be much better whenever you pursue your interests. But what about you? What do you think? What are some tips you would give someone if they're trying to get inside the crypto space?
if they're trying to get in the crypto space, the first thing I would ask them is, are you looking for a job or do you want to build? Right? There is a question like, is it better to actually look for a job or is it better to build? Right? But for me, I think the tips that I would give would be, first and foremost, you have to decide which side are you on. Second, how are you going to approach it? If you're looking for a job, you need to make sure that you're LinkedIn. You need to make sure that you are advertising your particular abilities. Some people are like content writers, right? If you do content writing or what's not, you need to actually create content. Like if you are a content creator, you have to create content and showcase your content on your LinkedIn. If you are a marketer, you have to show the marketing. If you are a trader, you have to show your trades. If you are an advisor or a consultant or whatever it is that you are, show your results, show your wins, show your mistakes on LinkedIn that people could see, hey, this person's serious about it. I am watching someone right now, like literally their whole thing is helping people get crypto jobs. And every last one of their posts to me, because I use ChatGPT so much, every last one of their posts to me seems like, yo, ChatGPT wrote this, right? But at the same time, they are posting very frequently and they just become a partner at a recent crypto event. I'm not saying that they might not have any legitimacy. Definitely they might be legitimate. I'm not even going to lie. But it just goes to show you that it's more about showing up in consistency. Then another thing I would say too is, get inside the communities. If you want to be inside crypto, you have to be inside some type of crypto community on both LinkedIn and Twitter, or X. You need to actually be looking for the communities, talking with people, interacting, as in when they make a post, you comment on it. You share some posts, you actually interact with people, and you still, while you're doing this, you still showcase what is it that you do. And then, apply it to the jobs as well. Like if you're trying to get a job, apply it to the jobs as well. Sometimes, and one of the things I love about this space is that there are a lot of different founders, there are a lot of different foundations that are giving grants. So for founders, if you want to say, go work for someone, like once again, with one of our previous podcasts, you could go to a founder, tell the founder, hey, I'm looking to break into the space. I have these set of skills. I am willing to work for free just for the experience. Many people would accept free work. Second, if you want to go the I'm building myself route, a lot of projects give grants and a lot of financial assistance to help you build your project because everybody wants to be a part of whatever comes next, but no one knows what's going to really take off. You feel me? So these are just some of the things that I would say you should look at. I would ask you the question, like as I was asking earlier, do you think that it's better to get a job in Web3 or is it better to start your own project in crypto, or maybe a bit of both? Like, what do you think?
It really depends. It really depends on where you're at in your life and your career. Because I don't recommend, if you don't know nothing about crypto, to start a project, because then you're going to become one of the projects that fail 2-1. A lot of
But
people,
failure
if they
isn't a
get a
bad
job,
thing.
they'll use that to actually.
Failure,
But you got to be a little
but
strategic.
failure isn't a
Failure is a
bad
good
thing.
thing, but if you don't know nothing about your space and you're starting a project, that's like saying you don't know how to cook food and you're starting a restaurant just based on vibes. Like that isn't like, all you're going to do is do some overhead. You're going to put yourself in some long-term commitments that at the end of the day, it is going to negatively impact you. At least learn how to cook. And it goes back to what you say, like getting probably an internship or working on a job where you actually start to learn the skills, because you can't just pitch up and say, okay, this person made money doing this, so I just could do that. That person might have been studying that for years before they started a project or they started a business. So you can't just, they might have not ever like presented it publicly that they were studying it or they was learning it, but you can't just go and say, all right, I could do it because they could do it, so I should be able to do it too. You don't know what that person been through to learn them skills. Now, like you say, failure is a part of it. Failure is definitely a big part of it, but there is a thing about approaching situations without preparedness. So like if you plan to run a marathon, you're not just going to wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to run a marathon. You're going to fail. If you could, all right, let me train for 6 months. At least you might get halfway, because if you're not going to get halfway to a marathon, if you don't train for a marathon, you're not going to get halfway. But if you train, it's like, all right, after 6 months, you might get half or you might get 3/4 of the way, but you might still fail. But at least you approached it and you're going to learn lessons along the way. And it's better to make those small mistakes because that way it'll actually teach you how to get further ahead. But it really depends. It really depends how you want to approach it and what do you want to do. You have to know what you want to do and not just be, because some people do this. Some people are like bandwagoners when they see one person, like I imagine when they see one person do something, they think they can do it. But it's like that person has a totally different learning style. That person has a totally different communication style. The way they ingest information and spit it out is different from you. Their personality is totally different than you, like everything. So you have to kind of take in what works for you. Because I see friends who have certain careers or certain jobs or businesses, and I'm like, wow, they're doing amazing. But I know I can't do what they're doing. Like I know I don't have that particular skill set or personality to deal with that. I know it just would be what feels like success to them will feel like failure or feel like hell for me. So I would recommend if you kind of understand what you want to do, like if you have a more deeper understanding, then definitely you could go along with creating your own project. Now, you will have to know like what you want to do and come up with a plan to execute, because execution is really the key. That's really the key. Like a lot of us have great ideas, but really it's about the execution of the idea. Everybody in crypto has a great idea, right? Everybody in crypto has an awesome idea. But yeah, so like if you're in a space, you're going to find no shortage of ideas, but you also have to focus on the execution aspect. And this is another thing, like if you plan to go into the entrepreneurial or venture side of things, the execution is going to matter more, because if you're, let's say you're driving on the road and you see two kids, like one kid selling water every day. He sells a case of water and he comes to you and say, hey, sir, can you invest $100 in me so I get some more cases of water, or get a cooler or something so I can have more water there? Versus another kid who doesn't sell water at all. You don't know if he know anything about water. And he comes to you and asks you for that $100. The one who you see selling the water, even though he might not be selling much, he could tell you exactly where to get the cheapest water, this, that, and the third. The people like water on this day. You know, I sell out more during the weekends, you know, blah, 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 right. You're probably going to get the kid who already selling more because you already see, all right, he's doing the work. He has the knowledge. It's just right now he's lacking the capital. You see what I'm saying? So it's really like, you know, like I used to hear one of my friends used to say this phrase, you got to learn before you earn. And that always stuck with me, like learning before you earn. And that's something what I think, if you plan to get into the space, if you already understand it to a degree and you have an idea of how you can execute it, or you just might need to work with some people, find a team who can help you execute that idea and you all can do it efficiently, definitely go for it. Because let me tell you something, someone else out there is working on the same thing. As unique as you think your business is, someone else out there is thinking the same thing. So I would say definitely get on that. But like if you're a person who's just starting out and you don't know anything, I would say, all right, try to find something. First of all, find out what you like and what you don't like, and find out what your strengths and weaknesses is, or find a problem that you think you can solve. But yeah, that's
I agree.
Yeah, it's my idea.
I agree. I think that perspective definitely checks out, because I really see it as when I was actually talking about doing a crypto project is, right? I would say that there is at least, you know, Lamont and I sometimes would actually have this particular debate where it's like learning with certifications and regular institutions and what's not versus learning by actually being in the space, right? I think each has its strengths and weaknesses, where learning from, say, taking certain courses or what's not is great, but at the same time, you might not have that practical knowledge, whereby learning from being in the space, you get that practical knowledge, but you just don't have that in a like form of a certification or a certificate or something like that. When I was talking about projects, I would also like to add that the project doesn't always have to be like a fully blown grant that you invested thousands of dollars in and pushing out. It doesn't always have to be that way. You know, sometimes you could actually start small and say, okay, cool. I am going to create myself a smart contract. I am going to teach myself how to code a smart contract, or I'm going to create a blockchain, you know, or I'm going to create an NFT. I'm going to see how the process is, going to launch the project. Who cares if the project fails or not? I would have learned how to do it technically, and then I would have seen what goes into actually doing that, you know? And that's like one of the different ways that you learn that you could also put on your resume when you go to certain jobs. I literally just saw a job out there today, earlier this week, for a toy company. They're looking for like a content manager. And one of the things that they said is they're looking for results. They're looking for someone who could show some sort of results. So it's like, a lot of these companies, I find personally when finding any sort of jobs, opportunities or whatever, it's way easier to be like, hey, here's my results. Like, yes, I have my resume and I'm going to give you my resume, but additionally, here are my results. Here is the work that I have already done so that you know I actually have grassroots, first-hand experience doing what you're looking for. You feel me?
Yeah. Yeah. And to go back to like with the certification thing, I would say certifications are important. Like if you're trying to learn something, like because a lot of times you get it in a concise way where, like I say, if someone doesn't know anything about crypto and they're trying to get into crypto, people will say YouTube and all that. But I mean, unless, yeah, some people can do that. But I would say this, like certifications, especially if you're just starting, if you don't have anything to show as of yet, that could be a way how you could kind of get that early recognition as well as that early knowledge. So you could start to become more like intellectually curious and you could start to develop something as a project. A couple of years ago, a friend helped me. I created a blockchain. I never like did it into a project, but I created a blockchain, created a cryptocurrency. Never issued it, but I just created it so I could understand how these things work. And that was after I did my certified blockchain architect. I did like the certified blockchain architect. And that actually kind of like sparked my curiosity. Like, let me try to actually build these things so I could get firsthand knowledge on it. Now, I'm not trying to be a developer, but it really gave me that back-end knowledge so I could understand these things more effectively. So yeah, you're right. Definitely, when you work more hands-on with things, you have a much better understanding with it, for sure. Like, definitely for sure. I think people think you got to be overly technical or you got to be a trader. I think that's the number one. I think that's some of the things that people really assume you have to be when you're working in crypto. Like, you have to be overly technical. Like, you got to be in darkroom coding with the black and green screen, or you got to be a trader looking at charts all day. And there's a lot of other roles. Like, almost every industry, you are people who could fill roles in that industry who don't really understand the nooks and crannies of the industry. So, for example, like in shipping needs lawyers. You have maritime lawyers, right? Them people might not necessarily know how to drive a forklift and put that, you know what I'm saying? But they need maritime lawyers to understand it. Sorry. The crypto industry need lawyers because just like with compliance and all that, they need to make sure that if their company gets sued or if there's any allegations of fraudulent activity, hey, we have a legal team that's going to defend us against us. So it's almost like just taking, like we mentioned, just taking your natural skills and finding a way to apply it in that particular consensus. So like, I'm a financial analyst by trade. So a lot of firms, they're looking for like blockchain analysts, they're looking for crypto asset analysts, stuff like that. So they can help put together like investment funds and portfolios. Something that if I go to a team, if I join a team or if I work on a project, I'm not necessarily going to be the one in the back end coding or creating the blockchain. Even though I did it before, I don't have the skill set to do that on a commercial basis. So it's just like, all right, this guy, he understands numbers. He understands, trends and socioeconomic impact, stuff like that. So that's what we're going to have them do, or that's the role I'm going to take within this particular team.
Hence why you should watch CryptoNoobz to gain that knowledge.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's a lot of things that I think people need to learn. Just a tip, people want to know how to get into the Web3 jobs. As we said, literally go on X, go on LinkedIn. Those are the two number one places where you see a lot of crypto people hang. LinkedIn, especially, I like the fact that you have direct access to different founders. You could literally, once you have crypto inside your bio and you just show your work and you just add the founders, more than likely they'd add you back. And one of the things that I've learned is that everyone inside the space is trying to figure it out. This is one of the few moments where it's like the space itself is trying to figure itself out. So no one is a true expert. People can assist. People might be very knowledgeable, but hardly anyone really considers themselves an expert because the space itself is still trying to figure out which directions it's going to go. So right now, you could jump on some projects. You could offer to assist in things like that. If you want to get a job inside crypto, literally reach out to some of the founders, showcase your skills, join the communities, and actually participate in the communities. Like really participate and talk. When you start to build that network, it'll get easier. I mean, just give it some
trust
time.
Me, because believe it or not, like a lot of your job opportunities, especially like when you get to like higher level positions, they're gonna come from like referrals. They're gonna come from people actually knowing you personally and actually saying, hey, we think you might be good for this role based on what we know about you. And that's like people who know you personally, because a lot of companies in the industry, a lot of them know each other. So it's like, okay, they might call Nelson and be like, hey, Nelson, we're looking for a back-end developer. Nelson might know a back-end developer. He might know 3 of them. So he might message all 3 of them, tell them apply. And this might be a job that isn't even on no job board. It isn't on LinkedIn. So this company, they're just trying to reach out to people individually, and they'll trust Nelson's word. Whoever you refer them to, they'll trust that. So yeah, like just keep on networking in the space and keep your name out there. And yeah, just display your expertise. Now you mentioned that the space don't have no experts yet. I kind of have that thought when I think about AI sometimes. It's like AI hasn't been along long enough for a lot of people to call themselves an expert. Now you might know more than everybody else, but what is truly an expert in the space? Like,
It's
but
still so
I
young,
understand. Right after this episode, if they don't know anything about crypto, research. And if you know good much about crypto, network. But you could start networking before you actually start the research. You could do that simultaneously. But before you get started, at least know, like, if someone adds you and y'all have a conversation, so you can know exactly what they're talking about and you could carry a conversation. Because trust me, I've been there where I was speaking to people and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. But that motivated me to actually go and learn what they're talking about, so I could have more deeper and more insightful conversations. I would say network and research. That's what you need to worry about.
Start editing your LinkedIn. Start editing your LinkedIn profile. Get a professional photo. Actually say what it is that you bring to the table. What it is that you do. Talk about your experience. Or even if you are breaking into a new role, say what it is that you're interested in doing, and then actually, showcase work. If you don't have any work or any results, take a few courses so that you at least got the certifications or the certificate to say, hey, you understand this knowledge. And then literally, you don't even have to wait until you get the job. Just start doing it. You don't have to wait until you actually get the job to actually start doing things in the job. If you are inside of the programming space, you could start making your own blockchain, cryptocurrencies, apps, whatever, just to showcase, hey, this is just my portfolio of some of the work that I've done. If you're a designer, graphic designer, okay, here are some designs that I made for my imaginary company of XYZ. If you are a content creator, create content. I think that the space applauds people who actually get out there and do something, rather than people who are saying that they're going to do something or they want to be something, but they've never done anything or have anything to show, But yeah, so that would be the end of this episode. Any final words from you, Lamont?
Yeah, just go out there, research, learn, and showcase your skills. Just showcase your skills and just keep on doing that. And let people see you, and don't be afraid to engage. Like, don't be afraid to actually speak with people. And that's how you learn, really, just by engaging with people. That'll propel you to get further ahead. But definitely put yourself out there and let your skills shine.
The end of our episode for this week. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And remember to follow us on our different social medias at CryptoNoobz and at CryptoNoobz.edu. And stay tuned to what is coming. We're reaching the end of the year. We definitely have some things that we want to roll out before the end of the year. And if you have any ideas for any episodes that you would like us to do, message us on either Facebook